Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Me? Bit of a mixed bag today for me. Our YouTube channel shot past the 42,000 subscribers mark yesterday, and our WhatsApp group continues to grow. The latest episode of our Saturday social show was our most watched Saturday show ever, and the latest episode of our video and audio podcast, Demolition's Greatest Threat, dropped just this morning and seems to be going down an absolute storm as well. On the other side, I have a dodgy stomach. I've split my heel. I'm not currently running, and this afternoon I'm off to the hospital for blood tests and a chest x-ray to find out what is causing this cough that I can't seem to shift over the last 2 years or thereabouts. All that aside, it really does feel like the Breakfast Show's time has come. Each new episode seems to attract new viewers, and our after-show chats are providing industry workers with a platform through which to air their concerns and their grievances. And frankly, there is plenty to be concerned about, as you're about to hear. A few weeks ago, we brought you the news, the warning actually from a team of financial experts that warned of as many as 6,000 insolvencies in the construction industry during 2023. Well, we're not out of January yet, and the demolition sector has already suffered its first casualty. According to a LinkedIn post from director James McStay, NE Demolition in Newcastle has decided to call it a day. That's not to be confused. That's the one in Newcastle. It's not to be confused with Northeast Demolition down in Chelmsford. In a heartfelt plea for employment, James says, I have had to make a big decision. NE Demolition will no longer be trading. I've tried my absolute best the past 12 months, and unfortunately, it's just not going to plan, with jobs being cancelled, people wasting my time, etc. I just can't do it anymore. Worrying about where the next job is has had a huge impact on my mental health. As sad as it is to see a demolition company close its doors, it sounds like James has probably made the best decision, at least for him personally. I wish him and his team the very, very best in seeking alternative employment. But that announcement does inform today's question of the day, assuming I actually remember to hit the button. So without further ado, let me roll the intro, try to remember to hit the question of the day, and get this show on the road. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I'm your host, Mark Anthony. Just a very quick, few good mornings. Let's have a look. There's inundated this morning. Don't know where they're all coming from. Gary Muirhead was here first. Nick Drew was quickly on his tail. Stormy Mindset, who is watching over on YouTube. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. That's the first time. So as our regulars know, you join us for the first time, you get some welcome confetti. Don't know what Stormy Mindset is all about over on YouTube, but I intend to find out just as soon as the show is over. More newcomers. Let's have a look. Magma user. Hi to you as well. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. You get the welcome confetti as well when I can find it. There we go. No, it's not that one. It's that one. It's that one. Too many buttons, too many people. But thank you very much indeed for joining us. That Magma user, also over on YouTube. The YouTube audience does seem to be growing really quite nicely. And then we have some more regulars. Al Grierson, who is here because he had a meeting cancelled. So thank you very much indeed for using today's gap in your diary to come and catch up with us. Good to see you here as always, Al. Dan Cullen's here as well. Mick Saunders is here as well. Lots and lots and lots of people. And there is just a very quick reminder. That is my question of the day. Have you ever been made redundant? Now, I think it's probably time we got on with the show, isn't it? It is Monday, the 30th of January, and as that remarkably persistent guy just said, welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, how a demolition company salvaged a super yacht. CJ Charlton chills out during the Edinburgh cold spell, and we'll be taking a closer look at the concealed hydraulics on a US tilt bucket. Plus, cat blades make the grade, and there's a few other bits and pieces we'll throw in there as well. We're going to get to all that in just a second, but first, let's see who among the rich and the shameless will be celebrating a birthday on this day of days.
Happy birthday!
And it is many happy returns to former US President Franklin D. Roosevelt and to veteran actor Gene Hackman. Did Gene Hackman ever make a bad movie? I don't believe he did. Happy birthday also to former US President Dick Cheney, to Small Faces singer Steve Marriott, Genesis drummer, did a few other bits and pieces as well, Phil Collins, and to golfers Curtis Strange and Payne Stewart. I've just realised I've got two mics open here. Bear with me just a second. That seems to have done it. It's also happy birthday to actors Christian Bale and Olivia Colman, lanky footballer Peter Crouch, and singer-songwriter Sam Duckworth, who some of you may know is Get Cape, Wear Cape, Fly. Specialist interest. Many happy returns to them, one and all. Now, before we get started, here's a very quick reminder of our question of the day. And this was created by my son Fred, who has grown very, very frustrated about the fact that I keep forgetting to mention the question of the day. So, here goes. And we'll get to your answers at the end of the show. So, to the uninitiated, demolition is a wham-bam, thank-you, ma'am industry. Wanton destruction carried out without a care. But as you're about to see, demolition can be precise and delicate when it's required.
Hi, I'm Bailey from Ward Demolition. We salvaged a super yacht, and this is that story.
Ah!
5 years ago, Ward Demolition acquired the task of demolishing Sensation yachts. The company went under 8 years prior, and the site had been left abandoned ever since. The demolition consisted of 4 large sheds and 2 office blocks spanning across a roughly 22,000 square metre site. 3 unfinished super yachts were left on site. Once Ward Demolition received the job, they legally belonged to us with rights to salvage. 2 of the super yachts weren't as far along in the build and it was impossible to find a buyer for them. Unfortunately, they had to be demolished.
There's 78 of these frames that all come together to make up one big mould. A lot of time and effort gone into this, and it's going to take not too long to demolish.
The remaining yacht was in 3 pieces: the hull, top section and engine room.
This is a 49 metre yacht that's half built and would be worth a lot of money to someone. It's way too far through the building process to put a digger through it. It would be a shame to demolish it. We are a demolition company, but we want to recycle and salvage as much as possible. It's full of interior. They've obviously started fitting all this before they've run out of money. We're in where the engine would get slotted into in the super yacht. Big engines here. Don't know much about engines, but I know these are big engines. They've got 0 hours on the clock. We're looking at $1 million engines. It would be a shame to get rid of them. Someone else will know what these are, know what they're worth, and be able to pick them up for a good price.
The 3 sections were relocated into a neighbouring shed so the demolition could be completed.
Hi, Peter Ward, Managing Director of Ward Demolition. The sales process of the super yacht ended up being quite a journey. The shed was costing us $10,000 a month. We'd decided that if we didn't manage to move the boat in the next 4 to 6 weeks, we had to wreck it.
We posted the super yacht on Facebook, threatening to demolish it if we couldn't find a buyer. The story was then picked up by Stuff and various worldwide super yacht news outlets.
And we were dangerously close to the breaking point when we found a buyer. The buyers that ended up buying the yacht were originally from New Zealand, very, very down to earth, fantastic couple to deal with. For me, it wasn't about the money, it was about trying to stitch a deal together to make sure that somebody finished it off.
Nearly 100% of the super yacht has been salvaged. Although the interior has been refitted, many of the original materials and cabinetry has been reused. The parts that aren't being used are being sold on or recycled. Both of the original motors are being used after a service and minor repairs. The super yacht's time in New Zealand has come to an end. It's now being barged to Australia to undergo the final fit out.
Wood Demolition was brought back into Lincoln Road to clear the way and build the ramp for the super yacht to go into the water. It was quite a nerve-wracking project, as any mistake could be quite costly. It was really cool to come back 5 years later and see that all the time and effort we put into salvaging the boat had paid off. We've seen that it's been put together and completely transformed into what it is today.
It would have been extremely disappointing if we had not been able to sell the boat and had to wreck it. This Sensation Yachts project is the longest running project that Wood Demolition has ever done. Now the boat's on another boat to go to Australia. We're finished there, we've just got to go back out and do the last little clean-up touches and we are finished. It's got a rate up there as one of the most outrageously audacious salvage projects in New Zealand, definitely in New Zealand, and maybe the world.
Yeah, massive congratulations to Wood Demolition on a very difficult and very delicate job. Well done. Now in the super yacht sales business. Weird turn of events. Just before we went to Belmont last year, myself and Fred made a flying visit up to Drummond House in Edinburgh to see CJ Charlton Group in action at the former home of the Royal Bank of Scotland. Well, that project is now almost at an end, so here's a quick update from Chris Charlton and his colleagues.
Hi, I'm Chris Charlton, Director of CJ Charlton Group, and we are back at Drummond House in Edinburgh, Scotland.
Well, at the minute we've got another week's worth of demolition with a high reach. We've got a team down starting to process, crush and dig out all the foundations and pile caps.
When I got up here this morning, first thing it was like -6 and we had some snow on the ground. Have the weather conditions been affecting the progress at all?
No, not really. You know, we've had a lot of rain, we've had a bit of snow, lots of wind. The hardest challenge here is the wind.
We're going to have a look around the site and see how everything's progressing and what we've been up to. So behind us you'll see we've got the PC490 Komatsu. You'll see we've got a Eurofab bucket, extreme rock bucket as well. We've also got the ZX490-7 Hitachi.
We're excavating the foundations and the slab. The pile caps are 4 metres by 4 metres and about 2 metres thick.
We took delivery of 2 machines from Volvo, an EC380 and a smaller EC145. We've had really good feedback about these Volvos.
Yeah, CJ Charlton already has a growing reputation down here in the south of England, but it looks like that reputation is now spreading north of the border as well. When I say the term tilt rotators, I think most of us will probably think of the usual suspects: steel wrist, Encon, rotor tilt. But there are others, as you're about to see.
Versatility has always been the benchmark of tilt buckets. Now, AMI Attachments is setting a new standard by adding durability like never before. Introducing AMI Attachments' all-new tilt bucket, powered by RamCam. The first fully enclosed hydraulic tilt bucket. Battling the elements of mud, rocks, and frozen dirt buildup has always been a challenge for hydraulic cylinders, especially on tilt buckets. With the new AMI Attachments tilt bucket powered by RamCam, the hydraulic cylinders are now fully protected and hydraulic hoses have minimal exposure, reducing the risk of damage and downtime. Designed by the engineers at AMI Attachments, RamCam is a revolutionary new drivetrain that allows for mechanical rotation using hydraulic cylinders within a protective casing. This simple but powerful idea has forever changed the expectations for tilt bucket operators everywhere. No more broken cylinders from rocks getting caught. Material buildup no longer interferes with the tilt range. And frozen dirt stays away from the bucket's mechanics. With all the grease points now protected, the new tilt bucket powered by RamCam features a grease bank for simple and routine maintenance. The tilt bucket powered by RamCam provides all the advantages you expect in a tilting bucket, only now cleaner, sleeker, and ready for any conditions. Features include a 90-degree tilt range, tapered sidewalls, and a dual radius heel profile. Available for 13 to 50-ton excavators, the new tilt bucket powered by RamCam is ideal for almost any application and machine. Built using Hardox wear plate and Strengths Performance steel, the AMI Attachments tilt bucket is made to last, even in tough, rocky terrain, and is backed by AMI's 2-year limited warranty. The all-new tilt bucket, powered by RamCam.
I am definitely swinging by the AMI attachment stand while I'm at ConExpo. We're at all surprised if Ed Butler and Steve Williamson go and have a look around it as well.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Not content with making some of the finest machines in the construction equipment industry, Liebherr seems to be in the middle of a program of even further upgrades. Last week we brought you details of their new 360-degree camera setup, and now there's this. Looking at a Liebherr machine, it's hard to spot where you might actually make any improvements, but you have to admire the company's constant pursuit of incremental improvements. Bit of this now, I think. It's been a while since I last stood very close to an actual razor. There's still some stubble there, but just in case you wonder. The last time I used one, I was stunned. I grew up in an age when men's razors had a single blade. In fact, I still own a cutthroat razor, single blade. Today, however, it seems that more blades the better, and that applies outside the bathroom too, apparently.
A cat front blade is a great way to make your motor grader more efficient and productive on any job site. Whether it's filling in ditches where you can't position a moldboard, pioneering or clearing debris for a remote road without damaging your tires or waiting for a dozer, cleaning small debris from load and dump areas as part of your haul road maintenance, finishing corners or other hard-to-reach areas, or quickly spreading loose material from dump trucks on the job sites, a cat front blade can help you do more in less time while protecting your machine.
I just happened to go onto YouTube and was looking at grader videos, and I saw one with a front blade, and I'm like, boy, that looks like it would work out really well. And I probably should have had this front blade 10 years ago, because it has saved a lot of time pushing the piles over. You're not climbing up over piles anymore and getting dirt all in around the front end and all through the turntable and everything like that, all through your hydraulic lines. You can knock the piles down and get it close, and then you turn your mow board on for the automation part, you know, get on your final grade. And the dump truck drivers like it better because I'm not actually asking them to spread the gravel anymore. They just pull up, dump a pile in front of me, and I take care of it.
To show the value of a front blade in spreading material, 2 identically sized loads of gravel were placed on the same job site. The load on the left was spread using a cat front blade. The load on the right was spread using the mold board only. Notice that the machine on the left spreads the pile faster, with no complex machine positioning, saving the owner time and wear on the machine. Utilization of the front blade for spreading material can be beneficial where road widths are narrow or don't provide enough working space for spreading with only the mold board. In addition to saving time, the cat front blade also reduces improper spreading techniques, such as running over the pile, which can cause stress on the axle and front frame, and can harm steering cylinders and hoses on the front axle. It also protects the mold board slide rail by reducing the amount of material that flows over the mold board. Cat front blades can be equipped on your machines in 2 ways. The first is a dedicated front blade group. The second is with a front lift group coupler that can work with a front dozer blade, as well as cat angle blades, one-way plows, UV angle blades, V plows, and scarifiers.
I like the blade just because it adds some versatility to the machine, and crawling over 24 yards of material and getting debris all in the blade. I'm standing there cringing watching all this material spill over the back of the blade. It enables them to knock the piles down. We use it for snow plowing on the other machine. We move a lot of snow. The grader's there and they push up against the blade. So it really just adds a lot more versatility. Working in corners that you can't get the machine into, saves the laborer some handwork to be able to use that front blade to help level things.
Work tools can be ordered installed at the factory or retrofitted at the dealership or in the field. Contact your local cat dealer for more information.
All that needs now is a lubricating strip and a famous footballer to help advertise it.
Sorry to interrupt the guy with the funny glasses, but if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button as it helps our channel. Or, better still, share this video with a friend or a colleague. Thank you. Right, back to Beardy.
Right, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat. See what you're all saying today, see how our question of the day has gone down. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends and your colleagues. Have a great day and thanks for watching. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll see you on the other side of this for what is now known as the Craic. And just so you know, I'm going to perform some gymnastics in a second to try and make this look better than it normally does. So let me roll the outro. Now let me I'll remove that. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Now I'm not so sure. So I'm going to go with that instead. Good morning, everyone. How are we all doing? I hope you can hear me loud and clear now. I'm just going to make sure that my audio is coming through. It appears to be. No idea what was going on with the other version. That's what happens when you take 450 odd shows and decide to turn it all on its head. So there we are. I won't be doing that again. Good morning, everyone. Gary Muirhead was here first off this morning. Nick Drew closely followed behind him. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you very much indeed for being here. We've already said good morning to Stormy Mindset. Mark Whiting is here as well. Had a chat with Mark over on Instagram last night. Good of you to join us, Mark. I know you've been up to your eyes, so always good to see you coming back. Let's have a look. I'm just going to mute the sound over on the other one. That's done it. Good morning, Mark, says Al Grissom. Good morning, gang. A cancelled meeting allows me to be here today. Yay, yay indeed. Another of our regulars back in the fold. Ken Hatcher has got no cold weather. He's just got cloud by the looks of it. Pretty much the same here as well, Ken. Mick Norton's here as well. Good morning, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. That Magma user is here and says hi all the way from YouTube land. Good of you to join us. Congrats. So yeah, thank you very much. It really has been quite an upward trajectory over the past couple of months. We started, I'm just trying to remember the exact maths, but it was something like August last year. I think our YouTube channel was set at about 2,000 followers. We're now at just check. We're at 42,534 as of right this minute. Wish I knew what had caused it, but I'm pleased it's happened. Dan Cullen's here as well. Morning, Dan. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Mick Saunders is here. There was my question of the day. Have you ever been made redundant? I haven't personally, but I did wonder about if anybody else had. And one of the things that struck me about it, and this stems back to any Demolition and James McStay. I don't know how many staff they actually employed up in Newcastle there, but I would imagine there will be redundancies as a result of that. And I looked up the word redundant. Obviously, I know what it means in terms of employment, but the wider use of, or the wider meaning of the word redundant is no longer needed or useful, superfluous. What a bloody awful thing to say about a working person. Excuse me a second, I'm just going to have to move this light. I was being far too ambitious this morning. I will not fall for that again. Yeah, what an awful damning indictment on somebody. You are no longer useful. You are superfluous. I've asked the question, and yes, Ken Hatcher has been made redundant. Yes, after 32 years, starting following day, where I've been for the last 7 years. Yeah, I mean, so long as this doesn't happen mid-recession, and certainly going back to 2008, 2009, I think you'd have struggled to walk into another job quite as quickly, but there does seem to be plenty of work out there, so hopefully the guys at NE Demolition will benefit from that. Question of the day, Gary Muirhead says, no, I've been really lucky too, never been out of work. Mick Saunders, question of the day, not redundant, but been laid off many times. Such is the nature of demo. Yeah, absolutely. The nature of demo, operated plant hire, and so on down the line. Jim Turner's here. Good morning, Jim. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Steve Williamson is here as well. I saw on his LinkedIn profile today, he is getting himself ready for his journey to Las Vegas. I'm actually on my screen at the moment is my visa waiver form. I just need to scan my passport, file that over, and get that one done as well. Need to get that done. It only takes a day or two. It's not a major hassle, but needs a doing. Question of the day. Nick Drew says, yes, made redundant by my first employers, Wimpy Construction, in 1984, after 6 years. Thought it was a job for life, but hey ho, job for life. Do you remember when that was a thing? No, me either, really. Question of the day says, Steve Williamson, no, I've been lucky and always had work, and long may that continue as well. Mark Whiting, we've had a pretty good run of things. We must have the creme de la creme of people here, I think. Mark Whiting, thankfully not, never been made redundant. Jim Turner says, great story. I bet they turned a tidy profit too. That's going back to the walled demolition salvage of that super yacht. Imagine that. You know, it's like one of those, what do they call them, barn finds, where somebody buys a house, goes and has a look in the barn and finds themselves a 1965 Aston Martin DB5 with 2,000 miles on the clock. What a result. Yes, let's have a look. They have some nice kit on that demolition job too. Not sure if that was the Ward Demolition one or the CJ Charlton one. I know CJ Charlton has certainly been investing in the whole thing of the whole plant department there. Al Grierson says, I mean, the tilt bucket design seems good, and protecting cylinders is always a great idea, but surely tilt rotators are the future for most applications. 100% agree, and I'm very, very sure that our resident tilt rotator expert, Mr. Williamson, will probably agree with that. But bearing in mind, AMI attachments is in America, and I think America with tilt rotators is roughly where we were about 5 years ago. They're a bit newfangled. Maybe this is the first dip of their toe in the water. Steve Williamson, with all these automatics being developed more and more, it won't be long till we just have to sit and observe everything, and the digger digs itself. We have reported on autonomous machines, and if you would like to know more, Built Robotics, the first ever episode, or full episode at the very least, of our Tech Foresights podcast. You can catch it on YouTube, you can catch it on Spotify, you can catch it on all good podcast platforms, and a few rubbish ones as well. Great idea from Liebherr, but again, it's taking the art out of driving machines. Yeah, it's a funny one actually. I've just realised I'm chatting away here and we have absolutely no music, and I'm bored of the sound of my own voice already. So music in the background. It's something I've mentioned before. This idea of the art of taking the art out of driving machines, but when you look at the difficulty the industry is having attracting new operators into its fold, what is the option? What is the alternative? You have to use more technology and less artful, less experienced people to perform the same task. I think the industry, and particularly the manufacturers, are covering our collective rear ends. Stroke limit dampener for the Liebherr shovel is a good idea. Totally agree. Liebherr generally do have good ideas. Question of the day. Jim Turner says, made redundant once because the company stopped trading, laid off once because the company knew I wouldn't travel to the next job, and all other times I've jacked because something didn't suit me or for the money. It's quite right too. Hell of a tool, them graders. Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't even know where to begin operating one of those. Far too many levers for my liking. Mick Norton says, my old 14G grader never needed a front dozer attachment. Whether it was coral, laterite, or formation shaping, it used to eat the challenge. Yeah, absolutely right. My apologies for that. My apologies for that. And my apologies for that. For those of you that were here, and I know a lot of you were, we did our Saturday social show on my laptop just to make it look a bit different, bring the changes. And the laptop was still sat there, and I thought, I know what I'll do. Rather than going for this reduced look, I'll switch over to the laptop. And I thought that would be a good idea. But switching audio from one source to another proved problematic. The main light source, which is there, didn't fit behind it. I won't do it again. You have my word. Question of the day. Once, when QuickSave left Scotland, not related to me having been promoted to part-time cash office manager at the time. No, I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure the two things were utterly unrelated. It's like I used to work for a magazine called Contract Journal, now defunct. I used to work for a magazine called Plant Managers Journal, now defunct. And they used to own an exhibition called the SED, Site Equipment Demonstration, now defunct. I assure you, I had left long before they all went down the toilet. But there you are. One thing I'm doing in Vegas, says Steve Williamson, when the show is done, go to see the Hoover Dam. Definitely a structure I want to see. It will boggle your mind. Steve did that many years ago. Hope you're okay with heights. So the guy who was almost my brother-in-law, but saw sense and backed out at the last moment, he, as far as he was concerned, he was absolutely dandy with heights. And then he walked across the top of the Hoover Dam, got about a quarter of the way across, and then had to crawl back. It's quite high. It really is. Mick Norton says, redundant is another term for the Conservative Party chairman. What a bugger's muddle that lot, honestly. I'm not going to get drawn into politics, but good God, if you would had laid out a plan of how not to win the next election, they are following that to the letter of the law, aren't they? Unbelievable. What I did find slightly strange, slightly sad yesterday, and let me make it very clear, I am not a fan of the Conservative Party, particularly at the moment. Certainly not a fan of Rishi Sunak, and I'm not a fan of Mr. Zahawi either. But I saw a bit of interview from a few years ago with said Mr. Zahawi, and I have to say he was telling the story of the fact that he came from Iran, couldn't speak a word of English. Iraq, my apologies. Came from Iraq, couldn't speak a word of English, went through the English schooling system, and he basically said England has given, or I think he said Britain, but has given me everything. Gave me an education, gave me a job, gave me an opportunity to do what I'm doing, and to see all that go up in smoke. Going back to what I was saying about redundant, I realise he's not a redundancy but a sacking, and I think his position was untenable, and I think it's the right thing to have done. Took rather too long to do it, in my opinion, but that's a whole other story. But imagine that. Imagine working your way up and through. And I know he's got a few quid in the bank, probably a few quid more than he's supposed to have, truth be told. But imagine working your way up through the ranks and finding yourself as a migrant, an immigrant, coming to the country, unable to speak the language, and then being part of the government, and then not. Kick in the teeth, I would imagine. Steve Williamson. Next Balmer Hotel is now booked already, thanks to Kin's offer. A couple of years to go, but it's wrong. But is it wrong to be excited already for it? No, it's not wrong at all. It's not wrong at all. Balmer is that good. And yes, unfortunately, booking that far out it's required. It really is. I have not this time around. Mainly because I didn't spend a lot of time asking people about it. Because myself, Fred next door, Nick Drew, and Peter Haddock were tucked away in a nice a very big Airbnb just down the road. So I didn't really get into all of that. But I've been at Balmer's in the past where people were driving in from Austria. There were so few hotel rooms left that people were staying in Austria and driving across the border, an hour, 2 hours to get to the show. Crazy. But no, you're absolutely 100% correct to be looking forward to it. I've got to be honest, I woke up feeling a bit crook this morning, and I just wish I could have pressed the fast forward button to like the 10th of March so that my bags are packed, my visa's in place, my passport is in a safe location, and I'm ready to rock and roll. Looking forward to Con Expo enormously. Look forward to it every time, but this one particular, all else aside, it's going to be quite a tidy little earner for this little outfit here, which is going to be quite nice. But over and above that, just looking forward to going and spending some time. The Americans are always incredibly enthusiastic, particularly when they see a brick coming towards them, and hanging out with the kit. It's Las Vegas. It's got everything going for it. Really looking forward to it. It was an hour away last year. Now 10 minutes away from the next one. Yeah. Well, I hope it's a hotel. I wish I could remember the woman's name. I wish Fred was still in the chat. Maybe he could have told me. We not this Balmer, but the Balmer before. We decided we would go Airbnb, and we found one. I reckon it was, on a good day, it was about a 10-minute drive from the front gate of Balmer. It was a really good location. Round the corner was a pub cum restaurant that did some fantastic Bavarian food. All of that was perfect. But Fred and I, were sharing a room. Not great. He's a snorer, I'm a snorer. Everyone loses. But worst of all was it was actually the basement of a lady's house. For the sake of this story, I'm going to call her Helga. I'm sure that's not what her name was, but we were basically in Helga's dungeon. And it really was okay. I mean, I don't spend a lot of time in hotel rooms anyway, but it was literally do the show, go back, have a shower, get changed, go out quickly, and then go back to the hotel or the Airbnb, get in bed, go to sleep. It was a dungeon. It wouldn't have surprised me one bit if we'd have come home from the show one day to find a rack had been put in there. Mick Norton says, if you want a quick way to establish perceived competence for a 360 operator, see if he controls the hydraulic ram stroke for the bucket without continuous banging. Guilty as charged, my lad. It takes me a couple of minutes to stop doing that. And it's not just that, it's things like grabs. I'm quite noisy with a grab. I don't know if you can hear that, but I'm a bit of a muncher. Not good. My lack of competence stands out like what's the expression? Balls on a bulldog, I believe. Now let me think. Things to tell you. Yes, I mentioned last week that we were working towards getting our friend Mr. Neil Edwards on the show. Neil is currently off sick, so I was hoping to get him on the show this week. He's off sick, and he's likely to be off sick for a little while. No idea what actually ails him at the moment, but if he is watching this, Neil, get well soon. Take care of that before you worry about coming back. So unfortunately, for the time being, I think it's going to be down to guesswork on the state of the construction nation, but I don't think there's much guessing involved. I know Dan Cullen has got WhatsApp groups full of people that are looking for work. We've already reported today on a northeast demolition company, any demolition up in Newcastle, closing its doors. They're not the first, and they most certainly will not be the last. So keep you posted on that. Also, it looks like the government has backtracked on its backtracking. But did you see all this furore over HS2 this weekend about the fact that rather than going all the way to Euston, it was going to stop at Old Oak Common? And then they decided, actually, no, we're going to go all the way to Euston, and that was just a rumour and a speculation and everything else. And I understand if that were the case, I understand that. But bearing in mind that HS2 has already been foreshortened, it was supposed to go up country and then branch off. It's not doing that now. Thank you, Mick. I'll pass that on when I speak to him. But what does that say about a nation? We've spoken in the past, or as a nation we've spoken for years, about the northern powerhouse and about the need to bring more jobs up to the north, and to make commuting from the south to the north and north to the south easier, so faster, more capacity and everything else. And then when push comes to shove, and I realise it's over budget, I realise it's a very, very expensive project, but then just to go, nah, we'll make do. What does that say about a nation when other countries are looking at us? Bearing in mind, us as a nation, we are, same as every other nation in the world, we're trillions in debt. Would another couple of billion to get the bloody thing done really make that much difference? Personally, I don't believe it would. Now, I can't actually... I'm not even going to attempt to say your name, sir, or madam, but hello, thank you very much indeed for joining us over from YouTube. YouTube does seem to be a very happy hunting ground for us at the moment. There's your welcome confetti. Anybody joining us for the first time gets that. It's a one-time only offer, so madam, sir, you only get that once, but thank you very much indeed for being here. Yeah, as I said, we seem to be picking up YouTube subscribers like they're going out of fashion at the moment. I wish I'd done whatever it is before, and I wish I knew exactly what it was I was doing. The only thing I would say is that we're pushing on with uploading YouTube Shorts, so vertical clips of under 60 seconds. That seems to have had quite an impact, but who knows? I wish I did know. I've been advised this morning that the software that we use to produce this can now clip bits of the show. I'm always questionable about that. I think if I upload a YouTube short or an Instagram reel that's a big digger doing its thing or an explosive demolition, I think visually that's quite engaging. I think people would get into that. Whether a bit of me talking about whatever stuff and nonsense it is I'm talking about, whether that would work as a short, not entirely convinced. Jim Turner says our end will end up being a big land grab when it doesn't get built. Yeah, I think you're right. Who the hell wants to travel to a central London rail station on the HS2 alignment? I've never heard of. Quite. Wasn't Old Oak Common originally just a railway maintenance yard and siding and that kind of thing? I know we went there, myself and Fred went there probably 4 or 5 years ago, before work started proper on HS2. Erith Group were over there basically clearing the site to make way for HS2 to arrive. But it just, I don't know, the lack of joined up thinking. I can't remember if I've mentioned this before, but many moons ago, those of you, and certainly Mick Saunders will know exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm sure plenty of others will as well. The Docklands Light Railway. Docklands Light Railway was opened with much fanfare, even though it did break down, I think, on its first journey with Her Madge the Queen, God rest her. She was on board, and this was very advanced. So does work, and at the time worked much the same as the bullet train in Japan, although much slower. So basically the doors opened at the right part of the platform, and it was all fancy schmancy and everything else. So that opened, and then the Docklands Airport opened, London City Airport opened as well. So I was invited to Gay Paris. Not that gay when I went, to be honest, but I was invited to Paris for a work thing. So I thought, well, I'm not going to drive through the centre of London and leave my car in the east end of London. I will take the train, obviously, because that's what us Southerners do. So jumped on a train into London, and then jumped on the Docklands Light Railway. And the Docklands Light Railway stopped about 1.5 miles short of the airport. And because the stations were so new and so limited in use, there weren't any taxis. So I literally, suitcase under my arm, had to walk 1.5 miles from the nearest station all the way to the airport. Arrived sweating and gasping for air, which is a fantastic way to set off on a trip to Gay Paris. It's changed since then, thankfully, but it just goes to show the complete lack of joined up thinking. This whole thing about the HS2, if you want to make it easier for northern workers to work in London, or for to ease some of the congestion in London by allowing its residents to move further north, possibly into lower cost accommodation, HS2 is the answer. No question about it. It gives us the capacity, and it also adds a bit of speed as well. And yet when push comes to shove, it's like going out and buying yourself the top of the range Aston Martin, and then at the last minute saying, "Oh, don't worry about the steering wheel and the wind mirrors and the seat. I'll make do." What nation does that, really? Does anyone remember there was a very good? I think it was one of their big specials at the folks. At Top Gear, back when Top Gear was worth watching, with Messrs. Clarkson, May and Hammond. They went off to I think it was the Burmese capital, Naypyidaw, and they very famously played a football match against the local police on a 10-lane highway. And the reason they played there was because the highway was completely empty, completely devoid of cars. Now, but the Burmese had decided, we've built a new capital. If you build it, they will come. The traffic will eventually arrive, and there's no point in us building like a dirt track or a 2-lane highway or even a 6-lane highway. Let's future-proof this damn thing and put a 10-lane highway in. That's what they do in Burma. Would you describe Burma as a third world country? It's Myanmar, by the way, now. It's not Burma any longer. But I think, there is some argument for them being a third world or second world country. And yet here, with all our wealth, our riches, and our excellent government, we make do. We make do. Mick Saunders, best thing that ever happened to my end of London, the DLR. I could argue with that. Mick, the best thing that ever happened to your end of London is pie and mash shops, and I will not allow any argument on that subject. DLR might be a good second, but pie and mash shops, particularly Manze's in Tower Bridge Road, in my personal opinion. And I'm trying to remember the name of it, but the one over at Bethnal Green, that's a good one too. Those are the best thing that ever happened to London. Everything else is secondary. And I include the Shard, London Bridge, everything. Now, now with the Lizzie line, us Eastenders can swan around London like we own it. Like you didn't do that before the Lizzie line. That's how... Anybody seen Mickey Flanagan doing the Flash Cockney Walk? Everyone from the East End of London does that, surely. I thought that was actually taught in schools. Kelly's in Bethnal Green. Yeah, a damn fine establishment it is too. And one of the things that, for those of you that are outside London, this will mean very little. But this is how service is supposed to work. The last time I took my son Fred to Kelly's in Bethnal Green, we were on our way to the London Stadium to see the mighty West Ham, who were mighty at the time. They're much less mighty these days. But we were going to West Ham, and we arrived, and they were short on pies and they were short on mash, and the whole thing was moving very, very slowly. And I was quite, we had plenty of time to spare. I was quite willing to tolerate that. And then the woman behind the counter spotted the fact that I was wearing a West Ham shirt and got to hurry up on both pies and mash, because they understand the magnitude of being a West Ham supporter. That's how shops and restaurants and pie and mash shops are supposed to work. Right, people, that's going to do us. Lesson learned from today: don't try and be a clever bugger and have two computers running at the same time. It clearly doesn't work. I mean, it does. I can show you it does, because there's me. See, I'm there. I'm side by side. I can do that, but the light and the sound, just far too difficult. So unless I can find some sort of switching device that allows me to do that, you're going to have to make do with this one, I'm afraid. So I'll be back here again tomorrow at 10 a.m. for more of the same. Lord alone knows what the question of the day is going to be tomorrow, but now that Fred's actually made a part of the show that I have to fill in, I'm going to have to do something. I have to go and cook up something. I'm off, as I say, off to the hospital this afternoon to have blood drained from my very being and have my chest x-rayed. So that'll be fun. 1666 was a very good year for London. Yeah, not so much. Not so much. Weren't there people burying cheese around about that time? A whole other story. Right, people, go and have a good day. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Thanks for all your redundancy stories. I'll have to come up with something equally engaging for tomorrow's show. But until then, have a great day. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Let's have a look. Hopefully get my new choppers today. Yippee. I look forward to seeing your happy smiling face, Mick. Until then, and you'll be able to eat pie and mash a whole lot easier as a result. Right, people, go enjoy your day. I'll see you all again in about 23 hours. All the best.